안녕하세요. Hello. Today is the 5th of September 2022, and the update on my Benjamin Button status is that I have lost 4.5 kilos, that's 10 pounds, and so it's getting there, but extremely slowly. I bought myself one of those vibrating platforms that you do exercises on while it's vibrating. It's a bit like trying to do weights on a train, on an old train, but it's actually quite enjoyable. I recommend getting one if you are lazy and don't really enjoy exercise like what I do. You still have to move, but it just takes the pressure off a little bit. The other exciting thing is that it is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 3 days till I get some lips. So I will document that. I will document that daily. So you will see me full of stitches with swollen lips and looking very hideous for sure. And so I shall try and take that daily and do some kind of stop motion thing where you can see the daily improvement, I hope. So hopefully I'll look like I did when I had lips before they disappeared. Everything else got fat except my lips. That doesn't make sense, does it? Why don't my lips get fat? So anyway, what I wanted to talk about today was my K-drama loves, of course, and starting with I sometimes monitor the weather between London and Seoul, or Seoul as they say in Seoul, and oh, here comes Pixie. I'm prepared for this. Hang on. Pixie, what do you want? Here, look, what's this, Pixie? Pixie, what's this? Fetch. What's that? It's a toy for you, go away. Anyway, I monitor the weather and it's quite often quite similar, although London doesn't really have typhoons, and that's probably why Koreans are not waterproof. I don't know why they're not waterproof. They are, as I say all the time, very, very reluctant to get wet in the rain. So anyway, and I think they obviously have colder winters because they do sport some extremely attractive overcoats. As I've said before, I'm fascinated by the overcoats. We don't seem to have such a big choice in England. And they seem to have many, many overcoats for several occasions, you know, sleeping included. And in My Love from the Star, which I've just finished watching again, the alien comes down from planet 172 for whatever. He comes down in the Joseon period, I think in 1622, and he is also sporting an overcoat and looks Korean because obviously he is Korean. So he arrives on planet Earth wearing a rather nice hooded black parka looking coat, which I think was very fashionable for an alien. And it was of a very nice fabric. So obviously aliens from that planet also like overcoats. there's I often laugh because in London there isn't much snow, but when there is snow, people do the most strange things, and things like they get a tray, because we don't have really snow toys, because you know you buy a set of skis and they stay in the garage forever, and or a toboggan or whatever, and so my dad's garage was always full of the most random things, and a pair of skis was one of the random things. He'd obviously picked them up out of a skip and brought them home, and they went into the shed. And anyway, we had 1 centimetre of snow, and I do remember my brother-in-law and his friends trying to ski down the road, the tarmac road, on 1 centimetre of snow, and it wasn't even icy, it was quite fresh snow. So basically idiots, and it was funny though, and so that was quite funny. And going back to the atmosphere in Korea, there's a lot of fine dust from factories, and so subsequently they do have like fine dust warnings, and Korean people like to wear hats and masks even before COVID to protect themselves from the fine dust. You often hear on the K-dramas them talking about, oh, you know, I like it here, the air's very fresh, and anyway, I do wonder if I had been born in Korea as a European, would my skin and face be as pretty and ageless as a lot of Koreans are, from either wearing the mask and protecting yourself from the sun, or because that very same fine dust probably blocks out UVA and UVB rays, doesn't it, from the sun. So that's why their skin is so beautiful for a long time, and they look about 12 when they're 38. So that was my thought on the weather. And you know, being a Eastern European, half French, half Polish person, my skin is like old leather. It's actually made to plough fields and go milking cows in the middle of winter, and with nothing but a pygmy goat to keep me company, and the cows of course, and maybe an ox. But my skin, yeah, is quite tough. I tried doing a chemical peel myself on my arms to make them lighter, and to be honest, I put it on and it made it look dry. I put it on 4 times and it made it look dry, and it still didn't peel off. I think if a nuclear bomb went off, I'd be fine. I wouldn't get any radiation burns or anything. I could probably be walking to Fukushima right now and be perfectly fine with my skin. So anyway, going back to my lovely K-dramas, my very entertaining K-dramas, for the novice going into K-drama watching, I would say don't be put off by the titles, because often the titles have nothing to do with the K-drama at all, and I'm sure, I'm probably certain that a lot of it is the translation from Korean into English. It doesn't sound the same in English as or have the same meaning as it would, and a lot of the times don't be put off by the subject that sounds quite rubbish. You know, like there's one, The Girl Who Sees Sense. Now you would think, now that sounds like a really hokey idea, doesn't it? But it was actually very funny and very good, and the story is very good as well. I quite like it. I mean, it's often, you know, based around some kind of investigation, a love story. I like watching the romances around, which is usually a love story around some kind of mystery. So but The Girl Who Sees Sense, that's worth watching. It's Okay Not to Be Okay is my absolute favourite. And from that title, there is really hardly any clue as to what that K-drama is about. And yet, I have to say, it's not only humorous, it's interesting, the acting is good, and the love story is lovely as well. So top of my list is It's Okay Not to Be Okay. So I did actually put a clip of that in my last video about the art of seduction, K-drama style. So you could see a clip of that. It's the one when they're inside a hospital and she says very loudly, "Do you want to sleep with me?" And he gets embarrassed, which, anyway, there you go, that was good. There's another one, Come and Hug Me. Now, Come and Hug Me, that was a really thrilling, interesting story about a serial killer. But as you can see, Come and Hug Me, it really doesn't warrant. Another one is The Smile Has Left Your Eyes. Now, this is one I've recently watched because I've fallen in love with Seo In-gu, who is another K-pop stroke actor, K-drama wonder. Oh, he's delicious. He's not conventionally handsome. He is handsome, but he's unusually handsome, and his acting is bloody superb. And that The Smile Has Left Your Eyes was, I usually guess from, you know, maybe 1 or 2 episodes what's going to happen, who's going to end up being the culprit in the end, who's going to get off with who. I can usually guess that right from the beginning, but that series is well worth watching because it's very, very hard to predict what's going on. And I mean, you can understand the story and it's very gripping, but that's an excellent one to watch. And anyway, so there are loads of weird concepts. So like The Girl Who Sees Sense, I've seen a couple about face blindness, and I've seen three series about face blindness. These are people who can't actually recognise faces, and so and how they cope with that, and stories around that. So that was interesting. A time travelling acupuncturist. Yes, I thought that would be so boring, but that was actually quite nice and quite a pleasant story. The Girl Who Sees Sense, obviously, she can see the colour of a scent through the air. So how that benefits mankind in the end, you have to watch that to find out how that is actually beneficial to her and to a policeman. There, I've given away a tiny bit of the plot there. And A Kiss Sixth Sense. Now, I haven't watched that one yet because it sounds rubbish, but I'm sure it's marvellous. Kiss Sixth Sense. So this lady has a sixth sense, and when she kisses people, she gets a glimpse of the future, which I can imagine can actually open up some very peculiar and very weird situations if she's trying to kiss someone to find out what's going to happen next. You know, sod the tarot cards, you know, you could just snog someone. And another one is people who share dreams. There was a group of people who shared the same dreams, you know, prophetic dreams. And memory loss. Memory loss is often often a key subject in the K-dramas. Either they've lost it completely, or they get hit over the head and suddenly lose their memory for the last 24 hours conveniently. Anyway, so moving on, my next point of call is how there are lots of half-naked men in the showers. And whilst I'm not complaining about that at all, because I have to say they do work very hard. The Korean actors, male actors, do seem to work extremely hard on their torsos, and you could actually probably play a tune on their abs, and you could probably do your washing on it as well. They're so kind of wavy. You could get a good stain out of that if you scrubbed it. And my favourite scene I'm going to insert here.
바닥 조심해라. 미끄럽다.
Now, that was Ji Chan-wook in, or Ji Chan-wook in K2. And again, K2, that title doesn't give you any clue as to what that series is about. You've just got to think, yeah, Ji Chan-wook, I want to watch him, he's gorgeous. And his body in that is absolutely just drool worthy. So well worth watching. But there are not, in the West, in England, in America, there are always lots of scantily clad ladies, and you know, you might see a bit of boob, you might see a bit of arse, you know, or whatever. But in Korea it's mostly man candy, and I even think it's man candy for men. I feel sorry for the men, because well, I don't feel sorry for them actually, because in the UK, when we see those delicious ladies, or you know, scantily clad in bikinis and swimming costumes looking stunning, we all sit there and go and look at ourselves and think, I'm going to go and get lip surgery. So and I'm going to lose weight, and I feel like shit. And I imagine in Korea the men probably feel the same if they see a K-drama and look at all these stunning men and just think, oh God, you know, oh, I can never look like that. I'd love to have that 6-pack or 10-pack, 12-pack. I think even some of them have. They're just like Ken on steroids. And when I say Ken, I mean Barbie's Ken, you know, Ken doll. And talking of that, I was I've got to insert it here, but I do hope nobody tells me off for it. But I looked up, I was talking about lips, and I was saying about how the balloon lips that look like they've got two sausages stuck on their lips, one at the top and one at the bottom. I was thinking about that, and I was thinking, what possesses some ladies to do that, make their lips look absolutely unreal? I don't know. And then I thought, I wonder if men really like those peculiar lips, and that look like sausages, or they actually look like a bum hole with piles to me. They really do. And I was wondering if sex dolls have those peculiarly really too big lips that are so big they would burst if you put a pin to them. And so I looked up sex dolls, and I haven't looked, you know, I was expecting to see those sort of blow up strange balloon dolls that you could actually have at a party. and just hang them up from the walls hilariously. But I found this man, and I was very tempted to buy one and just have him sitting in my living room. Now, doesn't that remind you of one of my loves? Well, it reminds me of one of my loves. It reminds me of my delicious divine Udwani, and it makes me wonder if he posed for that, or somebody watched my favourite Let's All Go to Rose Motel and modelled that from him. But my friend did point out that his nipples needed colouring in, and I thought his brow looked a bit peculiar, but he's very delicious, isn't he? Don't know why we need human beings anymore. Still, with sexual harassment cases and Me Too's and stuff going on, poor men not being able to approach ladies not being able to approach men because they think they're too forward if they do. I think we're all going to end up with robots, and that'll be the end of it. So yes, anyway, that was a side. I went off piste a bit then, but anyway. But I think poor Ji Chan Wook is going to end up with grumpy face like me. His mouth is starting to point down like mine does. So I think in a few years he may need to have some. Maybe not, I don't know, I think he's got lips, but I just think he's got grumpy face, he's got bitch face starting. And anyway, another thing I can't believe on the K-dramas, I'd like a Korean person to tell me if this is actually true to life, that they are always punching and beating each other up. Even friends will get annoyed with each other and they'll go and punch them in the face, and mums will whack their children across the head or slap their children on the back, especially sons. They were quite violent, and I mean, I have mentioned before about the hair pulling, how girls will just dive on each other and rip your hair out, and then, you know, it seems quite acceptable. Whereas here, I can't imagine, unless you're kind of not very educated here in the UK, or you have a really bad temper that you need some medication for it. I don't know that it happens all the time, or maybe I just don't frequent the areas that happens. But I do think that it seems to be quite normal, even in the sort of educated range of Korean people in the dramas, that it's you can go and kick and punch people, and even your boss will kick and punch you, and you have to kneel down to them and say sorry. I'm sure that can't be right, unless it's very old fashioned. That must be against the law. But then I did see a vlog on somebody's vlog who said that it's only been recent that children are not beaten at school anymore. I mean, yeah, I used to, when I was younger, we used to be able to get caned. You know, you used to get the slipper or get caned, or you get a rap on the knuckles with a ruler, and but that was all banned, and so all our children now are totally unruly. So Korea, that's what you're heading for. Doom. Your children are all going to become surly and unruly and naughty. Anyway, so that was my thought on that. And then the other thing I wanted to talk about was in K-dramas how first loves are a big thing. And it made me think about my first, I won't call him love, but my first attraction was Roy Bliss when I was 3 years old in the nursery paddling pool. I would avert my eyes, because obviously we were sort of, I didn't like to go naked. I've never liked to go naked in public, and but I do remember him being naked, so I had to sort of keep averting my eyes. And he had a very pretty face, big blue eyes and big red lips, and but I often thought that his head was too big for his body. But if I met Roy Bliss now, I bet you he wouldn't look remotely like an older Udwani or Temi. Not that Roy Bliss was Korean. he was very much English, but I imagine he probably looks bald, short, round. Not that there's anything wrong with bald people, don't get me wrong, but yeah, I think he's probably white-haired, wrinkly, saggy, and like not very attractive at all. Like my actual first love, who I got heartbroken over for over a year and a half. I used to sort of try and bump into him all the time, and then I did bump into him, and we kind of met up again, and he went off with my best friend. So I lost my best friend and my first love. And anyway, he made friends with me on Facebook, and I was quite relieved I didn't hang around with him. He's not remotely attractive at all anymore, and yeah, and he's still pretty much the same in personality, as far as I can tell from his activities and photographs on Facebook. So any young people watching this, if you're heartbroken over somebody now who's quite delicious when they're 19, 20, just think ahead and try and imagine what they're going to look like when they're 40, 50, 60, and especially if they're English. You know, if they're black, they're probably going to look exactly the same, because I know this is going to sound like I'm stereotyping black people, but hopefully in a good way. But all the black people I know who have grown up over the years look pretty much exactly the same as they did when we were in primary school, and they look beautifully young and gorgeous, as they always were. But English people, English men, a lot of the time don't age very well. I'm sorry, Englishmen, you've got to start looking after yourself. It's not something in our culture that we've done over the years, I don't think. But men, you've got to start looking in the mirror. You've got to manscape. You've got to brush your teeth properly and floss, and look after that hair of yours. So anyway, in K-dramas though, I think the society there all have quite a lot of pressure that you know, everybody in the media seems to be around the age of, or in their 20s. It seems to be their golden age, and then 30s to 35, then suddenly it's like, shit, we've got to get married and start a family. It's the culture to be married by 35, otherwise you're really doomed. And I think in England anyway, you're still a child when you're in your 30s, well, like you are in Korea, but you're just about managing to get your career kicked off. So to actually stop that and get married and have children and get a mortgage and all that heavy stuff in your 30s up to 35 these days is madness. And for women in Korea, it's like 28, I've got to have a baby, and I think there's a lot of pressure from the family to, you know, go and get married, go and get married. And for a man to have a lady that's even 1 year older than you seems to be a real big no. It's like she's older than you, she's older than you. I can't imagine how that really matters, because I mean, fair enough, if you're a lady in her 50s and your loved one is in his 30s, it might be a bit tricky, because he might want children and obviously you won't want children. Well, you may not want children, and so that might be a little bit like put a bit of a time limit on your relationship. But when you know, a year, 7 years, 10 years, 12 years difference in that. So the sex scenes in the K-dramas, if they go to bed fully clothed and wake up fully clothed still, then they've gone to bed and they haven't had sex. Whereas if they both go to sleep in the bed and wake up the following morning and they're wearing different clothes, or you may see a shoulder of the lady, but she's obviously got her bra on and a slip on as well, or a t-shirt, a vest on, and the man, Ji Chang-wook, I've seen he's woken up on a few occasions bare-chested, or they might be wearing a pyjama top. Then you'll know that they've actually had sex, and that's the only way you can tell on K-dramas if the loved ones have had sex or not. Otherwise it's a bit ambiguous, because you know, sometimes they both you know, when they've gone camping and got drunk or something and gone to bed together, they suddenly, you cut to the next morning where they're leaving the location, so you've no idea what happened that night. They could have just kissed and said goodnight or whatever. They leave it very much to your own imagination. And finally, my my last thing I wanted to mention, which I find quite funny, is the product placement and happy ever after episode, which is usually the last episode. That come the last episode, they cram in loads of product placement that they obviously couldn't slip in anywhere else, blatantly. Always a lot of powdered coffee. What else? A Hoover, a cordless Hoover that looks like a Dyson, a battery operated Hoover, biscuits, sweets, this pink stick. The ladies always do pink stick makeup. I don't know what that pink stick is. I think I would like one, but I have no idea what it is. I think they put it on at the end what that is, but I can't relate to it, can't relate what's what, and I really don't know what it is. It's supposed to make you look 100 years younger, apparently. And I do like it. Always says 3 years later, 1 year later, which usually involves somebody going off to be educated in America or England, and they come back looking totally stunning, male or female, and meet back up with their loved one because they didn't go off shagging someone else, and they end up together in the end. And there've been a few where that doesn't happen, and I get quite upset. And there was one or two that I've cried for days thinking about how sad it was at the end, and you wish that something better about. Even a ghost one, you know, even an angel one. There was an angel who materialised to help this lady, and he had to go back in the end. He had to go back to heaven, but he was so woeful in the last episode that he hung around her so much as a disembodied, invisible angel, and she was so depressed and he was so depressed that God granted them a wish and obviously allowed him to materialise and live with that lady, become human again, and have another life, I suppose. And so yes, that's about it really, my little chat today. Hope that was interesting. So watch my I might not put anything up for a few weeks because I will be ugly and swollen. I'm not supposed to move my lips for a while, but I will add it later after I've healed a bit, and show you the gruesomeness of it all, so it may be some value to anybody else thinking of getting a lip lift. I'm going to lip lift, a V-plasty and a corner lift and a vermilion lift, if that means anything to you whatsoever. So anyway, have a nice day. Annyeong. Thank you for watching.